Hey everyone, it's a beautiful day outside today, so I hope that you're having an opportunity to get out here and enjoy the sunshine. I myself have risen from the basement studio to record some of these outdoors because, like you, I'm a little cooped up. But anyway, today is a really special video. This is a great one. This is put together by Ted and his kids, and this is another construction project from readily available materials that he happened to have right on hand in his shed. So this is a Bluebird box construction project. So similar to the bee box, but a little more complicated and a little bit more detail behind it. But yeah, Ted put together a great video and sent me this all packaged and edited and ready to go. So without further ado, Bluebird boxes with Ted Lind, our Director of Community Conservation, and his family. So take it away, Ted.
Hey everyone, this is Ted here again from the Saginaw Basin Land Conservancy. I'm the Director of Community Conservation, and we're going to do another home building project. Should be a fairly easy one, and just like the last one, it can be done mostly with materials that you probably have laying around already, so no need to run to the hardware store. Today's video is going to be about how to build a Bluebird box, but it's made from a single 1x6 board that's roughly 6 feet long. So in my case, I do have some more of the fence board that I used in my last video, so I'm going to be repurposing some old cedar fence. But just like with any habitat box, it's best if it's not treated. Bluebirds, if you don't know much about them, they are in the thrush family of birds. They're about 7 inches in length, and they have a bluish back with a reddish brown or even an orange breast throat area. They're an absolutely beautiful bird. But their population declined seriously several decades ago due to habitat loss, mostly in nesting sites. And according to Audubon and many other conservation partners, their population has seen some serious increase, and some very positive things from a conservation standpoint have happened due to habitat box construction. So this is one way where you can play a small part in helping Eastern Bluebirds in our state. They have 2 broods per season. You'll see 4 to 5 pale blue eggs in the nest, and there's about a 14-day incubation period from the time the egg is laid to the time the egg hatches. From there, they fledge 15 to 20 days after hatching and leave the nest from there. Much like the cavity nesting bees that we built habitat box for in our last video, Bluebirds are also cavity nesting species, and that's one reason why they had suffered some population loss. Historically, they may have used tree cavities or old woodpecker nests to nest in. Even if you build this house and you don't happen to be in prime bluebird habitat, there are a number of other species that would use these nests, so it still provides some great benefit. Other species you might see using these nests would be tree swallows, chickadees, wrens, or even house sparrows, even though house sparrows are invasive. Bluebirds' typical habitat would be on a field edge or a fence line. They like to be adjacent to some type of wide open area. That's because they use that open area to hunt for insects and different berries and things like that. So that's what they're going to be eating. If you don't have a fence line, like I said, you can install it even in your backyard, and there's still, it'll provide some type of benefit for a species in your area. Okay, so here's the lumber that we're going to be using for our Bluebird box today. Again, like I said, we're going to be using the 1-board Bluebird box plan, which you can easily find online. But essentially, we take this 1x6 board, and we're going to make a series of cuts in that board, and that will provide all the lumber we need for this. Again, the board needs to be about 6 feet long. The first board that we're going to measure is 13.5 inches. This is going to be the back of the house. Next, we're going to measure one that's 9 inches, and this is going to be the front of our house. So we're also going to need to put a hole in it, but we'll cover that part later. Our next piece is going to be 7.5 inches, and that is going to provide the roof to our house. Next, you're going to measure 2 more 9-inch sections, and these are going to be the 2 sides for the birdhouse. Our very last section to measure is a 4-inch piece, which will make up the floor of the birdhouse. Okay, so we finished making all the cuts for our house. You should have 6 pieces Again, they should be 4 inches, which is your floor, 7.5 inches, which is your roof, and then you should have 3 pieces that are all 9 inches. And these are going to be the 2 sides and then the front. Lastly, you should have your long piece, which was 13.5 inches, and that makes up the back of your birdhouse and also provides you a little bit of extra above and below the house so that you're able to mount it either to a fence or to a tree or to the side of a building. There are a couple things you need to do with some of your pieces though before we're done. We are going to be drilling some drainage holes in the floor just to make sure we don't have a buildup of water inside our birdhouse. On our 2 sides, we are going to be drilling some small holes near the top, and that's to provide some air ventilation. So we are getting ready to drill the holes in the floor. So we have a 5/16 drill bit. The size of the bit is not so important, but you don't want to make it too big. 5/16 or some similar size would be just about perfect. So we'll go ahead and drill these holes now. 4 holes in the bottom. Next, we're going to go ahead and drill our ventilation holes in the sides. So what we've done is we've just paired up our 2 boards, 1, 2, and then we just have a piece of scrap underneath to make sure we don't drill into the concrete. We're going to go ahead and put those 2 ventilation holes in. Okay. So now you can see we've got ventilation holes in the 2 sides. We've got some drainage holes in the base. We're going to go ahead and make our hole for the front of the birdhouse here in the front. Okay, so now we're working on the front of the house. So this is where we need to make the actual hole where the bird can go in and out. And as a recommendation, we want to make that hole about 6 inches from the bottom of the board. So we've made a mark about 6 inches, and that's where we're going to go ahead and drill the hole. Now, ideally, if you have a bigger spade bit of like 1 1/4 inches, 1.5 inches, 1 3/4, that's perfect as far as making a hole for the bird to get in and out. You don't want the hole to be so big that predators are able to get in. So roughly 1.5 inches is what you should try to make your hole. If you don't have a spade bit like this, you could trace a hole on it, roughly that diameter, and then use a series of drilled small holes to cut that out. Or you could even use a jigsaw if you have that. There's a variety of different ways. If you do use the method where you drill a series of small holes around, make sure you use a little bit of sandpaper or something to kind of smooth that opening out. So we're going to go ahead and drill our opening now. Okay, so we've got all of our pieces cut. We've got the hole finished for the entry to the birdhouse. Let me just show you how this pieces together so that you can go ahead and construct it. So first you've got your back, and you can lay that down. You've got your 2 sides, and the holes that you drilled should be up. Those are for air ventilation. You've got your base, and that should fit this way in the bottom. You've got your roof, and then you've got your front. And you can see it looks something like that. So now we need to go ahead and put it together. To put it together, we're going to use all nails with the exception of one of our sides. We're going to use a single screw at the bottom of one of the sides, and that is to provide us one of the doors is going to actually be hinged and open so that we are able to check inside the birdhouse in the off season and sort of clean it out in between uses. So first we're going to go ahead and attach one of the sides to the bottom of the birdhouse. And again, like I said, it's not super important what type of nails you use. We just have some scrap 1 1/4 nails that we found. They need to be long enough to go through the one board and sink into the other one a little bit. And that's what we're going to go ahead and use. So we'll go ahead and attach this and then move on to the next part. Okay, so for this first part, I will say if you're having kids help you out, it is easiest if an adult does these first couple nails, and then there's going to be plenty of opportunity for kids to do some of the later hammering. we're going to go ahead and attach it to the back. The order in which you do these is not super important. It kind of makes logical sense how it should go together, but it's really up to you. Just take special care to not put the one side on until the end, and we're going to make that hinged, and I'll show you that here as we go. So we've done everything except the roof and our one side. So I'm going to show you the little tricks to do that next. With the roof, you could put it on so that it's nice and flat across the top, and that's okay. But sometimes that could pool some water on top of your birdhouse, which is not good. So what I like to do is if you just raise it up ever so slightly, it creates a small gap right there, which isn't necessarily bad, provides a little bit of ventilation, but it gives just a slight angle to that top and keeps water from pooling on the top of the house. So that's what we're going to go ahead and do on this one. So we've got our roof on, like I said, and we're ready for our last piece, which is this last side. And again, we're going to make it hinged. So at the top, we can connect it just like normal, but you want one nail from the front up near the top and one nail from the back up near the top. So there you have, our house is done, and we've left one side so that it can hinge open. Now, just to make sure that it doesn't hinge open when we don't want it to, we're going to drill a small hole, or even drilling a small hole is ideal, but if you don't have a bit for that, you could just put in a single screw right here, but don't sink it down all the way. Leave it so that it can be removed. And that's how you could remove that screw to open your house during the off season to clean it out. And we added in that last screw, and we can remove that screw when we need to open our birdhouse. And then when we want it closed, we put that screw back in. So our house is complete. We're ready to go find a spot to hang it. We do not live near an open field, so our house is probably not going to be an ideal bluebird habitat area, but it's still going to provide some good habitat for some birds of our area. We actually live near Tobico Marsh, so we're going to put up a habitat box that borders the marsh, so I'm sure we'll be able to find somebody to use that house to make a home. So we're going to take just two roughly 3-inch screws, and you're going to put one screw through the top above the house and one screw through the bottom, and you can mount it to a tree or to a building or to whatever structure makes sense for you. But this is what our finished birdhouse looks like. Let's go hang it up.
So he's screwing in the top screw now. Make sure to get it really in there so it doesn't fall down.
There we go, it's all done. We have our finished bluebird house hanging near the marsh, and it is right next to another bluebird house that we built earlier in the season, and we took a little peek inside that one through one of the cracks, and we can already see that somebody's starting to use that for a nest this season. So that's exciting, and hopefully our second bluebird house also gets a nest in it this season. So I hope you've enjoyed building a bluebird house with us today. Hopefully you're able to build one at home too, and if you do build one at home, we'd love to hear about it later on if you get some birds making a nest in it. So enjoy, stay safe out there, and thanks for following.